President Trump brought all of the top generals to Northern Virginia this week, and the media is already melting down. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth did not hold back.
Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you.
They can. So we're bringing somebody in with military experience. So here with more is Shaun Rieley. He's the Hillsdale Director of Educational Programs and a teaching fellow. So Shaun, we saw this today, and this was just setting the internet on fire. So what did we learn today from Secretary Hegseth?
Well, I think Secretary Hegseth, no holds were barred, right? He didn't pull any punches, and he said exactly, I think, what has long needed to be said with what's going on with our military. This is a long-standing trend that we've seen. This book by a friend of mine, written back in the 80s, in fact, called Weak Link: The Feminization of the American Military, or something like that. Maybe I've gotten the title not quite right, but it's something along those lines. So people were seeing this trend for a long time now, but I think it's really accelerated in the past few years. And essentially, what's happened is we've taken our eye off the ball, right? What's the point of the military? The point of the military is to fight and win wars against America's enemies. That's the bottom line. Everything else is just window dressing. And so, but for the last few decades, the military has worked on doing a number of different things, particularly regarding social policy or political goals that are other than the sort of goal of the military, which is to fight and win wars. And so what Secretary Hegseth announced today is that we're going to get back to that mission. We're going to put at the forefront the warfighter, particularly the person on the ground, the NCO on the ground, and we're going to ask, how can we better make those individuals, those ground leaders, more lethal, more effective at doing their job?
Shaun, I just want to look back for a minute because I saw this graphic, this full screen too. We put that up, before the show that they put together, and it just brought back, the memories of the last few years. And you sit there and go, "Is this real? Like, I mean, did this really happen?" Because it did really happen, right? I mean, we had all the talk about wokeness, et cetera. We had, the tranny stuff. We had the bizarre, COVID stuff and the tyranny there. So many people who served. Having to deal with enforced vaccinations. Like, this entire thing is crazy. And I have to imagine for you, like so many other Americans, it was gratifying to then hear Hegseth, right, say this about dudes in dresses. I mean, this was an incredible moment.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that.
Now, Shaun, I mean, I saw a friend, Wade Miller, and a few others saying, this is like a dream of what a lot of people in the military, I mean, this is their dream, right? He's living the dream right now, which is, let's call all the generals together and just tell them we're done with this shit. Is that what you
of course, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I was an infantryman. I've been texting with my buddies all day saying, did you see this? This is amazing. I mean, I thought that era was over, right? I thought we would never see that come back, and we're kind of living on the fumes of past glory. And so, I had the same reaction, and so did many of my friends who now feel vindicated, really, because I got out in 2012 in part, not entirely, but in part because I couldn't stand another briefing about sexual harassment, about how we have to be nice to, LGBTQ persons that were now joining the military and this kind of thing. I thought, not only do I have to compromise my Christian beliefs on some of this stuff, But just as a basic level, as a warfighter, as an infantryman, I'm being distracted with these trainings, these mandatory trainings that are, making sure that ostensibly making sure that, we don't make anybody feel bad or excluded or something like this. So, I got out because I couldn't stomach it. I know many people who have stayed in and suffered through it and are now today feeling vindicated because they saw this coming. They have, by the way, kept their mouths shut as policies have changed, stayed loyal, done what the leadership has said, and now it's kind of the shoes on the other foot, right? So yeah, I have the same reaction as many others today, thinking this would never happen again, but here we are. So.
All right, so you and your guys were texting just because you guys saw this and felt compelled, right? I feel like this is where a lot of middle America is right now. It's just like, okay, we're back to this. Top Gun Maverick was a great movie because it made sense. Everybody wants to love their country. And then you get people like at The View with Joy Behar, who was like, why was Pete Hegseth so obsessed with fat and fitness today in his talk? I don't get it. Why was he so obsessed with it? And I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe if we had focused a little bit more on the actual standards and fitness and going out there and just trying to get a prepared military for war, we wouldn't be sitting here having to have this conversation right now. We wouldn't be waiting for somebody like Pete Hegseth to come out there and just say like pretty obvious stuff. I mean, it's not like it was like earth-shattering things, but
Yeah.
it resonates with you and everybody else.
For sure. No, that's exactly right. I mean, you would think most of this is common sense, but unfortunately, as with, many big institutions, big bureaucracies, common sense sort of isn't so common often. And so, this has happened as the military has become much more bureaucratized. The kind of bureaucracy has metastasized, and then you have all these kind of CYA, things that come out, and then kind of, well, we have to be nice. Can't make anybody feel bad. And this kind of thing. I mean, to the point that even basic training, you mentioned basic training. I mean, when I went to basic training in 2004, the fact that some of the things that he mentioned aren't allowed, drill sergeants say cursing at you, or what they call shark swarm or whatever, which basically where the drill sergeants all get on you and, yell at you and that sort of thing. I mean, the truth is I'm surprised that stuff was ever disallowed. But two, if I'd have gone to basic training and I didn't get that experience, I'd have kind of felt ripped off a little bit, because that's what it should be. I think, as the secretary pointed out, people that join the military, they want to be challenged, right? They want to do hard things. And so the weakening of the military causes people that might otherwise stay, that we really need, to sort of look for challenges elsewhere, right? You're not getting it there. And so, you might look elsewhere for that sort of thing. But again, as you say, I mean, this is all common sense stuff. In fact, it's what most people think the military already is. And so, the fact that we're bringing it back, again, really just common sense, and really striking in some ways that it even needs to be done.
Yeah, Shaun, I'm so glad you brought up that point too, because that was striking to me when he was talking about, that these things were disallowed. And I had vague memories of, this in the press, like you couldn't, it's hazing and you can't haze anyone. And of course, as he said, we don't want anyone to be abused, but this is also the United States military. and frankly, this is the kind of behavior that you get all the time if you have any kind of team sport, never mind the military, especially when you have a bunch of dudes doing it. And there's a lot of this today felt like, to me, it was like some kind of spiritual Karen was in control of the military. And today, Hegseth was like, actually, the boys are back. We're in charge again, bunch of dudes, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to go back to that because we didn't like this.
Right, absolutely. And, as he said, females in the military, some of the best, right? No issue with them serving in the capacities that they can. But when I was in Iraq, I remember the debate about females in infantry combat arms units were raging, and that's been now, I think it's 2015. That was finally the ban on females in combat units was done away with. So we're now a decade past that. But I was in Iraq in 2007 and 2008. I remember this conversation was going on, and I ended up writing to the Stars and Stripes, which is the military newspaper that you get when you're overseas, and saying basically, hey, when the NFL integrates, that's when the U.S. Army Infantry should integrate. And before then, or that's when we should talk about it, right? Before then, we shouldn't even talk about it. I mean, when the stakes are an NFL game or season, we don't do this. But when the stakes are winning the war, securing our country, life and death, then this is when we're going to consider it. Seemed crazy to me. But yeah, no, that's right. This is sort of endemic, just sort of part of the culture. And when you water that down, when you take away those kinds of things, it really makes them far less attractive to a lot of the men that you really want there, right? The guys, the kind of guys that you want on the line, rough men doing hard things, becomes less attractive, right? So. Yeah, I think it's just need a corrective.
It's definitely needed, and it just feels good today, right? Like it's just like, all right, we can relax a little bit, not for long, because as Pete Hegseth says, like we're getting ready for war. It's fine. That's their job, right. But at least for today, we're like, I think something's right in America. And again, enjoy this while it lasts. Shaun Rieley, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.